I admire y'all for getting up early. I gotta take my keys out of my pocket. My last coaching stint, you couldn't put your keys out like that or your cell phone because they disappeared. I'll tell you why in a minute. Yeah, you better stop laughing over there, young man. They'd be gone all of a sudden. All right, here's a question. Now, is this varsity? Okay, any JV, varsity primarily? Okay, you're the ones they come to see on Friday night? All right, wait, we're going to talk just for about a half hour or so, not much longer than that, but I am Coach Rick Smith, and I direct an outreach program called Right About an Outreach. We've been to a lot of other schools. We've been to Trinity, we've been to Marcus, we've been to LD Bell, we've been up in Oklahoma, a place called Carl Albert. Carl Albert's a 5A school up in Oklahoma. They've won 10 state titles up there. But just want to talk to you. I want to share my story. You know, I find it kind of ironic that Coach mentioned talking about when you're on the bottom, sometimes you got to bounce.
The following students need to report to the lecture hall for the ASVAB test. Nikki Gabel, Sarah Prather, Alberto Raman Melvin, Cameron Alines, Gregory Bennett, Brent Byberg, Brandon Cannon, Victor Castaneda, Jennifer Enzi, Juan Salazar Carrillo, Chris Williams, Francisco LaGrue. Please report to the lecture hall.
I'm assuming that's none of y'all? All right, that's a good thing. All right, hey, let's get back on track. I want to share my story. Growing up, I came from a family that probably would not be classified as very functional. There's a lot of screaming going on in our home, and it was off the hook, so to speak. And just, you know, that's kind of growing up. That's kind of what I knew. But as I got a little older and I watched some of my other friends, and I'd go to their homes and kind of saw how loving and calm it was. And I know my parents loved me, but, you know, still it was a little bit out of control at times. But, you know, I don't talk about that a whole lot because I believe it's not where you've been, it's kind of where you're going. And you got to let your past motivate you to the future. And I think sometimes we use that kind of as a stumbling block that keeps us from moving forward. But, you know, I kind of grew up and said I don't want to be like that when I get older. And kind of my outlet out of my home was athletics. You know, I loved playing baseball, football. Junior high, I started wrestling. Actually, as I got older, I actually wrestled in that little building over there, and coaching for me is still over there, and I guess functioning. But we spent many days over there. But, you know, that was kind of my outlet. And I was determined as I did get a little older that I was going to, you know, hopefully be blessed, get married, and have my own kids, and have that family, and make it the way I always wanted it to be. And that's essentially what happened for a while. I ended up, I got married to a nice young lady, and I have 3 boys now that are 16, 13, and one's about to turn 12. And had that all-American family, you know, and I'm big on painting pictures, and that's what I want to do this morning. I want you to see clearly kind of what happened. But had that family. I got old enough that I really couldn't compete anymore, but by then I was pretty beat up. I'm 46. I had 6 knee surgeries, 2 back, and then also my shoulder repaired. So since I couldn't compete anymore, then I started coaching, and that really became my passion. And it was because it was my passion, it was also my identity. And I was coaching baseball, football, and wrestling both, and had some success doing that. Even my boys all wrestled for me also. But, you know, kind of sometimes when we have success, we kind of lose that humility and forget how that we got there. And kind of during that time, as I was getting older, the pain began to worsen. And I believe things start out innocently enough. But went to the doctor and said, you know, it's getting bad. And innocently enough, he gave me, you know, just 1 pain pill. And I took that pain pill, and I kind of had a routine at night. I'd come in, and I'd be hurting. I'd take that pain pill, and I'd sit down, and I'd put in Madden. And I was playing Madden, and I'd make me some popcorn, and that was kind of my thing. And I found that really what was happening was I was getting high. And so my little activity was a little more fun. Well, you know, after a while, I'd pop that pill, and one wasn't working. So I'd take 1.5. Then it was going to be 2. So I had this routine, and I could function, and I still looked the same, and I handled my business. But it's funny how quickly that gets out of control. Young men, that one tablet eventually turned into about 240, what they call Norco, over a week-long period. My little innocent pill habit all of a sudden was getting out of control. But it was going from all of a sudden just pain pills to Soma, which is a muscle relaxer. And you could always tell if I'd been taking them, because the next day my wife would come in and there'd be food all over the place. I'd like bust out a whole box of Captain Crunch berries, while I was taking that. And then all of a sudden, now I'm not functioning as well. My every thought are those pills, but I was still having success as a coach, and I could function. And the only one that really saw what was going on was really kind of my family, but no one said anything. I don't think anyone knew what to do. All of a sudden, then I was taking bars. That may be a term y'all know. Bars, Xanax. Seemed like every time I took that Xanax, I hit everything that moved. I was running into horse trailers, hitting a bar ditch, but still no one said anything, but I could still function. Well, let me fast forward a little bit. May 2008, my innocent enough choices got so out of control that my family did not know what to do. Family being the boy's mom. I'd been named the head football coach at a Christian school. See, my family, we went to church. We did all those things. I even served as a missionary. I was on the church staff. But all of a sudden one day, I left for work after being named the head football coach, getting ready for the season. I was staying up all night, sleeping just a couple hours, and a function on them pills. Got a call from a neighbor. It was on a Sunday. We'd gone to church together, and I was about to go get ready for the summer. And he said, "Are you moving?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Man, there's trucks at your house. And if you kept up with me, you by now figured out what's going on." But it was gone. My innocent enough choices got so out of control that they didn't know what else to do but to leave. And all of a sudden, my family was gone. So all of a sudden, I'm here at the house. My family's gone. I knew I had a problem, but I just didn't know who I could talk to about this addiction I had that I didn't even understand. But I still somewhat looked the same. I had a friend of mine that was a pastor. He said, "Coach, got hit rock bottom." I said, "How much, dude? Take a look around." He said, "You're not there yet. You're still calling the shots. You're still dictating the next move." And he was exactly right. On top of that, my health was failing. Besides those scars on my body, I'm 46, and I've got a defibrillator, a pacemaker in my chest that keeps me ticking today. I'd suffered heart failure. It's called stress-induced cardiomyopathy. My heart shut down. They said, "You will not live as long as you thought you were." And I had to accept that. Part of the problem, young people, is I wouldn't listen to anybody. And I was too big-headed to go ask for any help. Even my friends didn't know. Or if someone knew, they didn't say anything. Well, that pastor that said you got hit rock bottom, he was exactly right. Now here I am by myself, and I'm like, I can do this, I can handle this. Well, now all of a sudden I'm getting drug tested. All right, so this guy that thinks he's all that is now being told what to do a little bit. So I get drug tested. So one weekend, it was getting to be a Friday, we scheduled the first scrimmage game. See, I should have stepped down, Coach, and said, "I need help," but I refused to give up the thing that identified me as somebody. And that was that head coaching thing. Someone said, that coaching job, that thing that makes you feel important, that coaching job, that thing that gives you identity. And they were exactly right. But during all this going on, I tested clean one day, and I got a call, and they said, "You can come and get your boys for the weekend." And we had a scrimmage game out of pairing with. Between that, I called my doctor and said, "Man, I think, I'm losing it." He said, "Well, come on in." So I go on in, and what does he do? He gives me a prescription for Xanax. Well, I began to take them. I can't even tell you how many I took, but young people, between that scrimmage game and driving home with my boys in the truck, we hit an 18-wheeler. Sideswiped an 18-wheeler. But I knew at that moment I hit rock bottom. Those things that start out innocently enough all of a sudden spiraled out of control. I walked away, but I knew I was in trouble, and I was right. I lost the rights to those boys for a year. Couldn't be alone with them. I was ready to die. I was prepared to kill myself, essentially. I ended up in a rehab in a halfway house. My roommate at the halfway house was straight up out of prison. Had long hair. Looked like Jesus. He did. And I slept with one eye open. But it's funny, my thought was, how in the world did I get here? When I look back and that innocent choice that got so out of control that all of a sudden I lost everything. Forced to step down as a coach. I was front page news, essentially. The people that came to my aid, I want to be honest with you, were my players. Were my former athletes that said, Coach, what can we do? Said I'd never coach again. And, there were many days that I wanted to quit. But I continued to fight and said, I'll take my life back one day at a time. Well, all of a sudden, I got a part-time job and I'm struggling to make ends meet. Really felt I had nowhere else to go and my health was shutting down. And one day I was reading in the paper and I said, I'm never going to coach again because I was so humiliated. All of a sudden I'm reading in the paper about this team up north that played behind the razor wire at Gainesville State School. And something caught my eye. And I'm like, I don't know. A kid in there said he felt like an animal. I said, I can relate to that. He said, I feel like a nobody. I said, I can relate to that. So I applied, and the next thing I knew, I'd been hired up there as a juvenile correction officer, and then came on board as a football coach up there. It's like someone said, you're going to coach again, but this time for the right reason. It's funny, young people, that a lot of times when we learn that what we're doing is bigger than ourselves, that's when changes start taking place. When we're doing things just to glorify ourselves, we call that being selfish. We forget how our choices affect so many people. I have to live today knowing that my choices destroy my family and affect so many people. That's a fact. Because something on the inside says, what's it going to hurt? What's it going to hurt if I take a couple of pain pills? What's it going to hurt if I take a Xanax? What is it going to hurt if I drink a six-pack? Well, all of a sudden, I do get hired. I end up there, and I'm thinking someone lost their mind. This is a facility for young offenders that have committed big-time crimes. And football up there wasn't like football back at a private school or a public school. Wasn't first-class facilities like this. We dressed outside. We had a shed that our equipment hung in. We had maybe 13 kids that even got to play on a Friday night. You ask half of them their knowledge of football, and all of them were superstars, but then after watching, you realize they meant why they were playing Madden and PlayStation. That was the extent of their football skills. Didn't have a clue what eye formation was. And there were a lot of kids with some talent, but I tell you what they were missing. They were missing a lot of character development. They were missing accountability. I was there for a year coaching as a Gainesville Tornado, but it was the best opportunity of my life. But kind of back to me a little bit. I'm fighting one day at a time to take my life back. I wrote down on a paper, I'll do whatever it takes. And I meant to turn my life around, and I did it one day at a time. I'm proud to say that today I've been almost clean and sober for 5 years. My health is pretty good for the most part. We do this outreach ministry, get to work with schools again. But I had to learn a hard lesson. We say rock bottom is kind of a spiritual awakening. And I look at you guys in this room and your faces are so familiar to me. This is never brand new to me as far as looking at you guys. I know last year y'all went 1-9. I do my research. But let me tell you how close you are from 1-9 to 9-1. It's refusing to do whatever it takes. It's taking care of your business, handling your business one day at a time. Understanding what you do affects more than just you. Football is a team sport. in handling your business. Who in here is a quarterback? Right there, right there. You know, I'll tell you, Gainesville, a couple of times, one time in particular, when we were rolling out the gate to go play, and they have this little checklist, and it's got to match ours. The coaches, security's got to match. But the security one trumps our list. Many times they took our quarterback off the bus. Told him to get off because he wasn't on the list. With that said, as the leader of that offense, what you do affects so many people. And I know you understand that. And that's what everyone in this room has to understand. Today I still live with that fact. That what I did affected so many people still today. Those three boys I do not see every day. I'm an every other weekend dad. Christmas mornings, they're not there. By the state of Texas, they could be every other week, every other holiday. But I don't do that. I let them stay with their mom. Because I realized what I did. It was a battle for me, just like you guys. And it's about you handling your business. Those kids that got locked up, most of them it was innocent enough on a Friday night. I've had to make a lot of changes in my life as far as how I handle my business. In recovery, we call it one day at a time. Not worrying about yesterday or tomorrow, but deal with today. I go to meetings in these little smoky rooms still. It's called AANA. But I found if I humble myself and I listen to people and I learn the next right thing to do, that I'm okay. And that's what you got to learn. I all day long could blame where I came from as to where I ended up. But that's not going to be no good. We're talking about handling our business today. This past season, I spoke to a school up north. Carl Albert in Oklahoma has a history. They won 10 state titles, and there's a lot of history here. Because I know you're like, well, Coach, related to me. You know, kind of what you said. You know, I dig it. You know, it's what we call real talk. But I'm about wins and losses. All right, well, cool. Let's talk about wins and losses for a minute. You know, I hope you understand the point about handling your business and how your choices, especially this summer, you may now be a farmer, but next fall be a Gainesville tornado. And they're usually not a pep rally up there. And all the honeys, well, they're not there either. You get a glimpse of a honey if you get off campus. Carl Albert, that tradition of 10 state titles, and there's tradition here and people looking at you. Anyway, talked to their coach, and I said, well, how's the season going? He said, Coach, it ain't going so good. He said, man, we're 1-5. Like, wow. I said, well, I just talked to a local school about overcoming adversity, and that's what I had to do. And he said, man, that's what I want to hear about. So I get up there, and I'm looking at a room just like this of good-looking kids, and I'm thinking, 1-5? Man, you must be in some district. But I'm going to tell you what they were lacking. It was leadership. Nobody in that room knew how to lead. And if somebody don't lead, then everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Well, I finished that day, and I'm not saying it's because it's not me, but they won that night 58-0. And I don't know if a light turned on, but they won out, young people. They won the Oklahoma State Championship. From that day forward, they never lost again. They began to beat teams in the playoffs that beat them. And you're this close, and I know you are because I watch. You're that close to being successful. Is that important later on in business? Absolutely it's important, and here's why. If you can figure out how to get over that hump, then you're on your way. The only way you're going to do that is figure out what you can control, each of you. Remember how we've talked about handling your business? Taking care of you, doing the next right thing? That's exactly what it's about. You know, you watch on film, and when you're scouting sometimes, you kind of see a lineman, kind of how he cheats a little bit, or he's peeking, call it peeking, or running back against the peak. When we start looking at something else other than what's right in front of us, a lot of times we get blindsided. And where am I going with that? Meaning you handle your business. You worry about you. You lead by example. And they'll follow. Hey, I'll be the first in the weight room. I'll be the last out. Young people, I'm telling you, if you keep fighting from the bottom to the top, that 1 in 9 will disappear. But you got to lose those excuses. I don't care if you're young or old. You got to embrace that adversity, just like I did. It took me a long time, but I'll be honest. I said, you know what? I'm glad that I hit rock bottom. As hard as it was, it made me stronger. It made my faith grow. It made me appreciate the little things. That 1 in 9 that's so painful, that I know in the halls, I know everyone, they're not so loving, huh? 1 in 9, oh man, y'all ain't no good. That hurts. Words hurt. We know all about that at Gainesville. We usually didn't stand a chance on Friday night, but we learned to play as a family. Now, when I was there coaching, we won 1 game, and we didn't even know how to act. We won 20-0. You know, 1 game, for example, you know, we did not have a punter, and we found a kid that played soccer, and so he behaved well enough to get off, and we're trying to teach him how to punt a football, and then we said, on this play, punt it to the sidelines. Well, he took that literal. He took the snap, and he turned to the stands, and he kicked it about 40 rows deep. Coach, how's that? That's pretty good. You about hit that lady up there sleeping. Guys, at the end of the day, and I'm going to let this young man, Mike, share in a minute. Mike talks about something called the last stop sign. Win or lose, our young men up there were proud just to get off campus and get maybe them a hamburger or a hot dog. But at the end of the night, when they rolled back in and we hit that last stop sign, reality set that they're about to be locked back down again. 7 days a week up at 5 a.m. When you're going to be getting in your car, going to Sonic, cruising Main Street, celebrating win or loss. They're going back in that little hole there that they call the room. But their choices got them, and that's what I did. That's how I related to them. They became one of me. I ate the same food they did. With no special order. You get what you get. Through the line, you forgot your milk. Too bad, so sad. You don't like the dessert. Too bad, so sad. When you shower up there at Gainesville, you don't get no special shampoo because your hair is all poofy like, and it got a little color in it. Why I say that? Because you need to embrace what you have here today. And realize Friday night with the honeys that you're trying to impress and your homeboys might be gone in an instant. Just like me. I woke up this morning. My boys weren't there. I didn't call them. But that's because of my choices, and that's on me. I can't blame nobody. Kids at Gainesville, sad stories, I dig it. But at the end of the day, it's on them. They're handling their business today because they realize if they don't, that they're not going to go to UV anymore. Most of them are going to go to a big boy prison. I'm going to turn it over to Mike here in a minute, and I'm going to let him share. But Mike is 17 years old. He's from TYC, Texas Youth Corrections. He was a Gainesville Tornado. He played football and basketball. He battles today out in the free, still being accepted and overcoming his past on the same way. I always say, if you want to know about Coach Smith, go to YouTube, you can look it up, because I ain't got nothing to hide. What I did is what I did, but today's a new day. I got remarried a couple years ago. I have a great relationship with my boys. I don't feel I'm called to coach on the field anymore. I get to coach every day right here. I learned a whole new appreciation, Coach, for my family and friends. you're at the bottom, that you'll find that through there for you. And young people, I don't know what it's like in the crib, at the house. But I do see you got a family here that cares about you. So don't complain about what you ain't got. Hey, be thankful for what you got. You know, their next season will be, I'm going to be, hey, following close. 1-9 can be 10-0 just like that if you handle your business. And remember, that one Friday night may cost you. But I'm going to turn it over to Mike just for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to close after that. But this is Mike. He's now out in the free, and he's still, he got his GED. And I'm going to let him tell you what he did. All right, Mike.
I'm Mike, I'm 17. I was just released in May of 2011. I did 2 years in the facility at TYC. Growing up, you know, I had my mom and dad, but I didn't have my mom and dad because I grew up around drugs. My dad wasn't there when I was born, he was in jail. You know, and growing up, when my mom actually finally kicked my dad out, my mom turned to drugs, so I didn't know where to turn. Growing up, I didn't have nobody to talk to. I didn't have a little bit of trust in some people, you know, and it's like, I found somebody growing up at the age of 10, I started doing drugs, because that's all I knew. I found somebody, an older friend, but I called him my brother. I knew him for about only 3 years, and when I started getting in trouble, when I started, you know, doing my thing, the second time I had got out and I got released, my brother was shot and killed. And I was 13 years old, and you know, at that point he told me, he died in my arms, and he told me, you know, don't never trust another soul. And that's what I grew up for the next few years. That's what I grew up believing. And you know, I had went and I got into placement, and a month right before I was about to get released, my grandma was killed, you know. And I mean, within 3 months, I mean, from January to May, I had gotten more trouble than I had did in the years that I was actually out there. From the age of 12 to now, up until I'm 19, I'll still be under the TYC law. I mean, when I lost my brother, I mean, my world changed because I didn't have nobody. I barely even trusted my mom. I loved her, but at the same time, I felt like she wasn't there because she had never said them things that I mean, them little things that were important to some of us growing up. I was never just an A-B person. I always, you know, failed one class, and my sister was making A-Bs, and we had a different dad, and that's what I thought it was. I mean, my dad eventually went from marijuana, from weed to coke to meth, and I grew up believing that people would tell me, you know, that's going to lead into bigger drugs, just weed, you know. And you look at it and you say no, but then when you go from weed to pop pills, that is the bigger drug. And you can be like Rick, popping 240 in a week, and you see yourself, I mean, growing up, and then you go through everything, and then when you look back, it's like it wasn't worth it. You lost so many years for what you're doing, and I mean, seeing the little things, your little brothers growing up, I mean, you missed your sister's graduation because you were locked up, but at that, whenever you graduated inside that razor wire, she was there for you. I mean, that year I got sent to TYC was the year my sister graduated from high school. And you know, when I called it, that's all she would say. When she would write me, that's all she would say. How could I be here for you, but yet you're gonna miss my graduation? And you know, I'm still in school, but I'm not in school. I'm in JJ down in Denton. The school didn't accept me when I was out. They didn't even want me in the school district. They said I was too high risk of a kid to be there just because of what I did in my past. And you know, it took us going all the way to Austin, and Austin wanted to file a federal lawsuit against them for them to accept me, and at that they still weren't going to accept me. They tried to give me 180 days and the connections that we had with my parole, so they cut it down to 90. I spent the whole semester in JJ. I'm getting out this Friday, and I mean, while I was in TYC, I had only a 1.5 year sentence, and 2 months before I was supposed to get released, I found out that I had nowhere to go. That every house that I used to live in back home was disapproved by my parole officer. So I was having 2 months left, didn't have nowhere to go. They weren't even gonna send me to a halfway house. I went to three facilities while I was in TYC in 2 years. I went from Mart to Brownwood and then to Gainesville. And in 2 years, I went to 4 different facilities, basically, because Mart 1 and 2 were split. And, you know, doing all that hard time, you come out and you don't have nowhere to go. I told a friend up in there and told his mentor, and his mentor told a woman named Brenda, which is now my new mom, you know, that I didn't have nowhere to go. And we started looking. She was looking every week. She'd come and see me, and it turned into where, you know, she asked me if I wanted to come to Crum and live with them, and I said yeah. But at that, I still got extended because they lost all my paperwork, and I had to redo some classes that I had missed in them 2 years. And we fought the state. We fought Austin for 10 months, just trying to find me and get me into a new home. And at the end of the 10 months, when I was released to a contract foster care. And it was basically like a little halfway house. I couldn't do nothing. I was still locked in the house. There was alarms on the window, so you couldn't leave at night. You were like 3 or 4 miles away from town, so basically you were just still locked up. I still had a time limit whenever I had to get out to take a shower. Within 5 minutes. And you need a little more than 5 minutes if you're out there sweating all day. And you know, when we found out that I was finally coming to a new home and to a new town, I had a problem. My grandmother had a heart attack. My great-grandmother, she basically raised me. So, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was ready to run. You know, I had that in my friend that all I was going to do was going to see my grandma. But I had got a phone call, and we got to see my grandmother, and it's like now, everything that I found out this whole weekend, we went to Oklahoma City Friday, I was on the radio station Sunday, I had a performance of 272 people this Sunday. And the church I was going to didn't accept it because the kid, Caleb Moore from the X Games, if y'all heard about his death on the snowmobile this past week, they didn't want to do it because they didn't feel like it was traditional. They thought crying and grieving was traditional, so the church canceled my performance, and I found somewhere else to do it. I mean, I felt it was a calling that I needed to do because somebody needed to hear what I was going to say that day. And, you know, reposting everything, we sent a personal letter to his mom because his mom was for our church. And just my little performance turned into Caleb Moore Memorial Service, a celebration of life performance. And it had over 200-some people. And we didn't know how many people to accept because his celebration of life is, in a couple of days out in the Panhandle. You know, we had a bunch of people show up, and you know, when all that was going on, all this, I had everything lined up. I got another call, and my cousin, just a couple of weeks ago, was shot in his head and was in a coma. And you see, this time, they shot him right in his temple. At gunpoint. And the bullet missed his brain. They couldn't find the bullet in his brain. They said the only reason why he wasn't going to make it was because of the fragments that cracked and went into his brain. But a few days ago, last Thursday, my cousin was released from the hospital and he's still alive. To this day, was shot in his head, couldn't find the bullet. They didn't even have to do surgery on his head because they couldn't find it. And, I mean, being busy, trying to keep myself busy, you know, with everything I'm doing with my ministry and all that, I forgot to stay in contact with the people back home that I still love and I have, and they love me. I mean, my mom did her best to raise me, but I mean, I took that different route, and it took me a long time to see that my mom was trying to do her best. You know, the person I am now is not for nobody else but my mom and my grandma and grandpa. And my mom had a stroke while I was in CYC. It killed me. But now, whenever I was released, I had called her and she said that she was bleeding internally and she couldn't walk that day. She was bleeding. I mean, and there was nobody there. My little brother didn't know what to do. So, I mean, all she did was she knew she made an appointment, and when she could walk, she went to the appointment and the doctor told her, "I'm surprised I'm looking at you right now. You're supposed to be dead from what you've just been through." And, you know, it's just stuff like that that just keeps me going. I mean, every day. I mean, I understand where it's hard either not having a father figure or, you know, a mom. But, you know, if you really look at it, you have people all around you that, you know, that will help. I just never seen that growing up. And I turned, you know, and I turned to the streets, and I believe that's not the way to go. And if you are on drugs, and if it just might be weed, because when I played football, I used to function on weed. I used to run like 4 or 5 miles while I was high. And, you know, it is going to lead to bigger stuff. I mean, I look at my dad now is still lying to me, he's still on meth. So I really keep in contact with my dad. I mean, it took me so many years to believe, fighting with my mom over somebody that didn't even love me, just because I tried to protect him because he was on the drug, and now he's still lying to me, saying that he's sending me stuff for me to pick up my little brothers. He don't even answer my little brother. I had to call my mom, I had to call my dad for him to pick up my little brothers because he don't love them like that, you know. And it's hard on my brothers. They call me crying. Sometimes my sister calls my mom crying. You know, it's hard because you can't be there because of some choices you make. I mean, y'all take what y'all have and y'all run with it if y'all got talent. That's all I want to say.
Oh, I appreciate it, Mike. I just want to wrap it up. Listen closely. He does talk about the past a little bit, but he's got to focus today on handling his business. This is about what he does today and what he does with that adversity, and we all got it. And here's what I want to close with. I'm going to throw this right back at you as you guys move forward. I don't know your situation at home. You know, we want to give you good information today. Whatever choices you make, that's on you. But you can't say you don't know. Now, if you're a leader on this team, I know like these coaches, you know, all day long, Friday night, you can look and say, man, who we're playing, you know, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they're 5-0. All right, wad that up, throw it in the trash. Because you can't control anything about that. You can't control your family. You can't control what goes on at the crib. But you can control you. If you get anything out of this today, I want it to be moving forward to next season. If that's your goal, is to be successful as a team, it starts with your character. I'm just going to be honest with you. And you need to sit down and you figure out what you can control if y'all want to be successful. But it starts with you handling your business. Because you know what? If you start bucking on a Friday night and you're locked up, you will not do this team any good. You'll be gone. You got to make 2 columns. You got to figure out what you can control and how, and what you can't control. Positive and negative. On this team, you got to get the group of positive together, and if there's the negative, you better either get them over to your side or you better cut them loose. Because it'll take that one negative to ruin all that positive. You got to get us on the same plan and make sure you're moving in the same direction. If you don't care, you don't care, and that's cool. But what can you control? You. You control you. You in the weight room. You in the weight room. You handling your grades. If you're ineligible, you're not playing anyway. Maybe your motivation, I want a scholarship. I want to be the first to graduate. I want to go D1. All right, well, what are you going to do about it? It's a team sport, but it starts with you. Do y'all dig it? Do y'all understand what I'm saying? If you don't get nothing else, that's what I want you to get today. Overcome the adversity. You know, I celebrate today my freedom, my relationship, being clean and sober, but it still comes down to the choices that I make. And you know what? These coaches, it's the same thing. If you see My mistake, I wasn't a kid, I was a grown man. Who's a senior in this room? We're going to be a senior. Where are your juniors at? Wow. You got a lot of seniors next year, don't you? Seniors, you better step up and show out. Lead by example. Guys, I appreciate y'all letting us come today. Going to be watching close to see how you guys do when it come back. Are y'all doing spring ball? Okay. But your success starts with tomorrow or yesterday or today. Let me hear you. Tomorrow, yesterday, or today. Which one is it? Where's your success start? Today. What can you control today? Coach, I appreciate you letting us come. And guys, hey, best of luck to you. We got David, do you have brochures? Yeah. We got little pamphlets if you want one. Want to be able to connect. Let me say this, Coach. If you're struggling, and I know pill popping, it ain't coming from the pharmacy. All right, I ain't no fool. I know a lot of it's right there in the halls or around the house. If you think you got a problem and you don't know what to do, that's another reason we're here today. You can reach out to me on Facebook. You can call me. Say, Coach, I dig all that you're saying, but I'm afraid I'm going the wrong direction, and I don't know who to talk to. You can reach out to us. Like our Facebook page. However you want to get a hold. If you want, man, I'll meet you at a Whataburger, whatever, we'll sit down and we'll talk. And because you know what? You can turn it around today. Dig it? Yes, sir. All right, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Get more.